And I want you to do your absolute best, especially when your enemies are watching. You do your best. You show them why they should be mad, because these people are out here. Listen, the devil is deploying his minions. Okay? Deploying. Let God deal with your enemies. God will deal with your enemies if you are yielding to God, especially if you are anointed by God, or if you are a child of God. If you're under the protection of God, that also comes with certain enemies being dealt with. Do you understand? You may not always feel ready to forgive a situation or a person. And so there will be times where you have to lean on the understanding that God will and can handle your enemies for you. If you think about any time you've ever been upset with a person to the point where you are just bitter and resentful towards that person, think about how hard it is to actually get things done at an optimal level. When you're so focused on hate or anguish or anger towards a specific situation or a person, it fogs your mind. Like, it literally makes it hard for you to see what other opportunities God has for you. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons why God says to forgive. There's many reasons why you're supposed to forgive others, but that, I feel, is one of the reasons why. Because when you don't forgive, or when you don't let it go, or you don't give it to God, you can't get God's assignments completed because you're too focused on something else. Your eyes have a veil of anger, a veil of redness over them. There's no way for the true you, the God in you, to come out when you have that type of anger within you. So that's when you have to kind of step back and let God deal with your enemy. If you really are working on yourself and you really do have an assignment from God, God will handle that for you. Like, God will handle that, like, for real. It's not up to you to deal with everything. It's up for you to deal with yourself. And if you can focus on what God has told you to do, God will take care of the rest, especially if you are on the journey to doing the assignments that God has for you, right? Touch not mine anointed and do my prophets no harm. Listen, baby, those words in itself, if you understand who God is, if you're starting to really get closer to God, you need to understand how powerful that is, okay? And that's where knowing who you are, knowing that you're a child of God, that's when that really comes into play. When you really are faced with opposition, when you really are faced with people, not just a person, but people who are giving you pushback, with people who don't want to see you make it, who don't want to see you do better, who don't want any sort of accolades, accomplishments to go towards you, even though they don't know anything you've been through. They don't know what your story is. They don't know how far you've come. They don't know who you serve. And that's the key. They don't know who you serve, but you know, and you know that your God, well, my God, I know that my God is able to deal with the enemy. That's what this is. It's a spiritual warfare. So a lot of times it is just people that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but understand that everything does boil down to a spiritual lesson at the end of the day. And so when you're dealing with opposition, that's a time for you to either be put down and to be lowered in that vibration of anger and confusion. And even it even throws you off of your game. If you have an assignment, you best believe people are going to come at you for that, especially when you're stepping into inching towards what you're here to do. Even if it's something small, there's always a bigger lesson behind it. And you're going to have people who are going to make you feel uncomfortable to the point where you can't even focus on it. But then you have to remember that you have God, and God will deal with those enemies, because it says, touch not my anointed. It's not happening. No weapon against me shall prosper. I'm over here saying all these like cliche Bible scriptures, but it's true. Like, it hits different whenever you start to realize like how deep that relationship with God is and how serious God is. You see what I'm saying? When you understand what that entity is, that like the creator is telling you that, it's like you gotta keep that in your mind, because these people will try their best to make you like yield to what they believe about you. They'll try their best to confuse you, and we know where confusion comes from, baby. That's the enemy. That's the devil itself. Confusion. So that's where you have to have people around you who understand, who serve the same God, or even just finding videos like this, because you're going to need that support. You're going to need that boost to keep you going, because these people are out here. Listen, the devil is deploying his minions, okay? Deploying. So I need you to understand who you are and like what that means under God and what protection comes with that. Nobody be talking about the protection that God be giving. Like, come on. Listen, you got this. And I want you to do your absolute best, especially when your enemies are watching. You do your best. You show them why they should be mad. All right, so that's all I got to say on this video. Okay, I will see you in the next one. God bless.